Hey everyone, welcome to Craving Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Now in this video, I'm going to discuss the possibility of Patrick Dempsey reprising his role of Mark Kincaid and also, of course, the husband of Sidney Prescott in Scream 7. Now there are some who still question whether or not Sidney's husband Mark is really Mark Kincaid. However, his identity was confirmed by radio silence in multiple interviews that Sidney's husband is indeed Mark Kincaid from Scream 3. So it's no longer a question of if it's Kincaid, but rather if he will return on screen in Scream 7. Well, it's time for us to explore that possibility and what direction his return may take the storyline of the movie. Let's go!
Hey everyone, this is Christopher Landon, the director of Scream 7, and you're watching Craving Something Scary.
So we've known about Mark Kincaid being Sidney's husband since Scream 5. However, we've yet to see him on screen in these new Scream films. Now I'm thinking under the assumption that Sidney Prescott will be back in Scream 7. I feel very confident about that, and I'm hoping her role in the film will be a significant one. Now, if my assumptions are correct, then it is a wide open door for the return of Patrick Dempsey as Mark Kincaid. Now, with that in mind, here are my thoughts on how Mark could return in Scream 7. And I'm going to give you 4 scenarios. All right, I'll move through them quickly though. The first scenario is that Mark Kincaid is the opening kill of the movie. Yes, that's right. Bring him back just to kill him in the first 10, 12 minutes of the movie. Now, why would you do something like that? Well, my thinking is, as a possibility now, I'm not predicting they'll do this, but it is possible. And I think you would do this because it instantly gets Sidney Prescott involved. Because one of the biggest hurdles that I've heard in streams and videos and discussions with many of you is, how do you bring Sidney back in a natural, flowing, organic way that doesn't feel forced or pressed in? And how do you do that, right? Because that's important. And I do agree it's important to do it that way. Well, here's one way to accomplish it. You start off right off the bat, and Patrick Dempsey's back as Mark Kincaid. He is killed in the opening. And here we go. Sidney Prescott is back in action, trying to find out who killed her husband and her kid's father, obviously. And so she's in the thick of it. So that's one way you could do it. But killing Mark Kincaid is not the only way to go about doing this. So here's another possibility. And this one, though, is probably my least favorite scenario, but it would be that Mark and Sidney's kids are kidnapped. And so you could have a scenario where, Sidney and Mark are out for dinner. They've got a babysitter. Maybe they're going to the movies even. If you want to get meta with it, they could be going to see a movie, whatever. But they're out. They come home and find their babysitter is either dead or has been attacked. Either way, one of the two. And to the point that the attacker or attackers, whichever the case may be, were able to grab the children, were able to take them, and now you've got Mark and Sidney both involved in this movie 100%, and under the threat of injuring the children, blah, blah, blah. You go down that whole scenario. Well, there you go. Sydney's back. Mark Kincaid is certainly back on the case and, insists that he help with the investigation. And maybe you get Kirby involved here and they go try to figure this thing out. That is a scenario that is plausible, but it's, again, my least favorite. I don't really want to see kids, involved. I really don't. No, I don't want to see them kidnapped, in danger, those things. That to me takes away from the fun of the movie. So I just don't really want to see that personally. But it is at least plausible. Certainly, it is a way you could do it. But I don't want to personally see that. But I wanted to throw it out there just in case you maybe were thinking those things as well. All right. Number 3. Mark is at home watching the kids. Maybe Sydney's at the grocery store, right? Maybe she's out doing something, having a meeting, whatever. But Mark is at home watching the kids, and his guard is down. He's at his house. It's a safe place. Your guard is always naturally down when you're home because you feel very safe there. And so he's not in cop mode. He's not in detective mode. So someone breaks in, or some folks break in and attempt to kidnap the children, but Mark is attacked, but Mark is able to prevent it from happening, and they don't get the kids. He's attacked, but he survives the attack. And so now you've got a full-blown Sydney in mama bear mode and Mark as well in protector mode to find out who this ghost face was in the ghost face costume, attempting to kill him and take the children. And so you go down that route. Now, I would like that much better than the kids actually being kidnapped, right? An attempted kidnapping, that's going to get Sydney involved majorly. Because why are you going after my kids? Who are you? What's the real story at hand? And there you go. You've got Mark Kincaid back, again, investigating, doing his thing, and Sydney as well. So that's a scenario I would be okay with if they went that route. Now, here's another way that, the fourth way that I see Mark Kincaid could be back in Scream 7. And it could be a scenario where, at this point, maybe Mark is with the FBI. The last time we saw him, he was a homicide detective in the Los Angeles Police Department. Well, that's a pretty high-profile city, high-profile job, a homicide detective there. So, that could easily be a catalyst for him to be promoted, get into the FBI, expand his career. So by this point in time, 20 some odd years later, 24 years later or so, if it comes out next year, it would be 24 years, a lot could change. So I could see Mark being now with the FBI, and he, as an investigator, much like, we see Kirby was with the FBI in the Atlanta office, investigating Ghostface attacks. Well, now Mark Kincaid is called in to also assist in investigating Ghostface attacks. He could get the phone call. Again, possibly the cult of Ghostface, which you guys know I've been talking about. And there are multiple attacks at different locations in the country at the same time. It's an orchestrated Ghostface attacks from the cult of Ghostface. This could happen. And now Mark Kincaid is involved as well to investigate. Well, then Sydney obviously is involved as well, because if Ghostface is back, then Sydney and her family is always in jeopardy. There's always a risk that she could be the next victim or attempted victim. And now she's got her kids involved. Whole new story. So there you go. It naturally flows Mark's investigating. Sidney by proxy is involved. And now you've got, then of course, Ghostface does come after Sidney Prescott. And then it goes to 11. And all bets are off, as Mark Kincaid said. Mark Kincaid said in Scream 3, all bets are off. Anything can happen at that point in time. So these are 4 scenarios, guys, that I think could easily bring Mark Kincaid back into Scream 7. He's the opening kill. Mark and Sidney's kids are kidnapped. Mark is attacked, but prevents the kidnapping of their children. He survives, and he's on the case. Or Mark is just called in to help investigate an organized attack of the Ghostface cult. Multiple locations simultaneously. He's called in. There you go, guys. That's 4 scenarios where Mark Kincaid could make his appearance. Patrick Dempsey back in Scream 7. And you know, if Mark Kincaid is back, Sidney Prescott is right there with him. All right, guys. Well, listen, I want to know what your thoughts are now. Those are my thoughts initially on Mark Kincaid. But I want to know, what do you think about the idea of Mark Kincaid returning to the franchise as, of course, Sidney's husband? Start leaving your thoughts. What are your ideas and your theories for Scream 7 and Mark Kincaid in the comments section below right now? Do you want to see him? Do you not want to see him? And if you do, what scenario do you want to see him return in? How do you want to see it play out? I really want to know what you're thinking, guys. You have a voice. You have a place here to let it be heard. Let us know what you're thinking, and we'll discuss it together in the comments section. Well, guys, that's going to be all for this update, but I'll be back with more Scream news and theories and other horror movie content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Thanks for watching.